All right, welcome back to another edition of Backpage Breakdown. I'm Antwan Staley, obviously Jets beat writer. If you don't know who I am, and joining me now is actually kind of like a colleague. We both work for the Tribune Company too, as well. David Furones from the South Florida Sentinel, somebody I've known for years back when I was covering the Dolphins, and he was doing high school and obviously Miami Hurricanes, and now he's doing Miami Dolphins coverage too. So, David, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Glad to finally join your podcast.
Yeah, I know, man. It's definitely, I'm definitely excited about this too. And you wrote an article recently that I really enjoyed too. I advise people to check it out on Twitter, or you can search for it too, as well as about Tua and just kind of the one-on-one that you did with him. So just talk about what you learned talking to him, and just the difference between Tua this year compared to years past.
Yeah, essentially, what the story was about is that there's so much more to Tua Tagovailoa going into the 2023 season than just a quarterback that's trying to get over the injury concerns of the past. Obviously, that was a lot of the offseason, was taking every measure necessary to put himself in the best position to avoid those concussions that caused him to miss 5.5 games. And obviously, we all know we don't have to recap the ugly scene in Cincinnati, and then what was believed to be another concussion before that, the week prior against Buffalo, and then another one that kind of snuck up on everyone in that Christmas Day game against the Packers, overall causing them to miss 5, leave early in another game. He took the jiu-jitsu courses that has been documented so much, and trying to get some muscle memory as far as some of the tactics, techniques to better put himself in a position to fall when he takes those hits, and then also strengthening up that offseason of strength training that he went through so that you can better withstand some of the hits from these bigger defensive linemen, bigger linebackers that are knocking him over, and then putting him in these positions where not only the head, but he's previously had rib injuries. He's had his finger issues on his throwing hands, and we know ankle going back to college, and that big hip injury that he had in college that cut his time short at Alabama before his professional career. So all these things adding up, and I think he wants to just be a bigger guy that can withstand that. But on top of all that, that's now kind of in his mind. A lot of it is that was the offseason, and then now he's focused on football. He's focused on his teammates. Every single time you ask him about something he's doing, then he always answers it in a way that brings his team into the mix as well. The weapons he's got on offense, the playmakers, his offensive line, who is trying to protect him also. That's part of the equation in keeping him healthy, is improving in that aspect. So just sort of a lot of where Tua stands going into this year, his maturity as a leader, how he's grown in that department, how he's part of that is the maturity from being a father now. He's about to welcome a second child into the world. He already has one, Ace, who was born last year around the same time. Actually, we're coming up on the birthday's got to be. And also now going into the second year in the same offense. That's something that he hasn't had in his whole college or professional career. So just a lot of aspects to Tua going into this big fourth season for him.
Yeah, I think he seems like he's more spicy than years past too. I mean, he talked about the Ryan Clark situation too. Let's talk about that. It seems like before he might have cared what people had to say about it, but now he seems like he's just in his own zone and doesn't really care about the outside noise.
Yeah, well, he actually really has always been the type that doesn't pay attention to the outside noise. He really, I mean, and I've heard this legitimately from other people around him too, that when he says in the media setting that he doesn't know about what people are saying about him on Twitter or what analysts have said about him, he really does not pay attention. He's just focused on his family, his football, and the people in his inner circle. But the Ryan Clark comments, he's just made aware of them moments before as he's getting a press briefing from Dolphins PR as he's about to talk to us. So that was really, in a way, some raw reaction because he had just learned about the comments minutes earlier before he comes to speak to us. So, in a way, it's not like he had a whole day to kind of take it in and then think about, oh, well, tomorrow I talk to the media, what they're going to ask me about this. So he really was sort of, that was his reaction, is he wanted to tell Ryan Clark, you keep my name out your mouth. He channeled some Will Smith in him, and sometimes you do see that spicy side of him come out.
So how good can this team be? Because I think the Dolphins are a sneaky Super Bowl contender. As long as Tua stay healthy, like I really think they have a legit shot. Obviously, the Jets, I believe, are there. They're kind of in that same category with one another. But how good dynamic can this team be?
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about this AFC East, man, is because you mentioned the Jets and the Dolphins. You cover the Jets, you know all about them, and then obviously this Miami team is looking to take that next step, and a couple teams that haven't had the recent history, but now a lot of hype around them. So how do they react to that? And the different situations with obviously Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets, but then the Dolphins, they added Vic Fangio to turn around the defense, which is so many of the years prior was one of the strengths under Brian Flores. First year under Mike McDaniel, it flips. The offense was number 6 in the league, but then the defense now has to be revamped a little bit. Added Jalen Ramsey, but we know he's going to be out for a considerable amount of time. Won't return until maybe either mid to late, probably late into the regular season. So that'll be almost like a late season pickup for the Dolphins. And then obviously you can never count out the Bills. They're still, until they are dethroned, they are the reigning AFC East champs 3 years running now. And then I never like to count out the Patriots. Maybe it's because I've lived in Miami for all these years, and Jets fans will know the same way. Just over the past 2 decades, a little bit before this Bills run started, it was always the Patriots every single year, in and out, and consistently competing and making runs at Super Bowls, winning the division almost all of those seasons. So you still can never count out Bill Belichick and something he might have up his sleeve. So can this team compete? I mean, I think so. It's just maybe that right now you'd have to still consider them a step below the class of the AFC, but they have a chance to prove that they belong in that same category.
Yeah, I think the Patriots are well coached. I think they have a really good defense. I think Matt Judon is a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, and I think Bill O'Brien also is going to make a big difference there. And Matt Jones is just a matter of how good can he be. I mean, they have a really good running game with Stevenson. They added Ezekiel Elliott. Also added Juju Smith-Schuster as well. So yeah, I think the Patriots. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but I think whoever wins the division, the Patriots will have a lot to say about that. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah. I mean, you still have to feel the Patriots coming in are the 4th team in the AFC East out of these 4. Maybe something can happen with any of the other 3 that just flips it entirely. Injuries always happen. Other things, maybe chemistry not working out the way it was anticipated with some moving parts on different teams. But I mean, you always got to consider the Patriots are a team that will compete at least and make things difficult on teams, even when they are not at their best talent-wise, roster-wise. And they still even made some additions, including Mike Gesicki, grabbed him from the Dolphins a year after they grabbed Devontae Parker from the Dolphins. We know this AFC East movement. A lot of teams are always trying to pick up someone from the other squads. So we see that a lot. But yeah, it'll still be tough to make the playoffs because if there's 3 wildcard spots in the whole AFC, then just the math simply makes it very difficult for the AFC East one division to get all of those wildcard spots. So, and it's a very competitive conference across the board too, not just the AFC East. The North has got something to say about it, and then also the AFC West.
Yeah, I was going to say the AFC North is maybe just as tough as the AFC East. I mean, Cleveland and Pittsburgh are very intriguing teams that can make the playoffs, and then you got Baltimore and obviously Cincinnati too as well. I feel like the Jets and the Dolphins have very similar issues on the offensive line. Obviously, with the Dolphins, they have Teron Armstead, who's been, their best offensive lineman, but he's been injury prone throughout the course of his career too, but outside of that, it gets a little murky. Just how confident or do you feel in their offensive line at this point?
Yeah, it is a big question mark, and the Dolphins didn't do. I don't want to say enough, but they didn't make the big move on the offensive line to sharpen that up. Obviously, they made the big move the offseason prior, and Teron Armstead, he's always injury prone, so that's something that you have to account for. So they might need backup left tackle Kendall Lamb to play significant snaps. I mean, he would be in line to start if Armstead doesn't make his goal of coming back for the Week 1 opener at the LA Chargers from this lower left leg injury that he suffered in joint practices against the Texans. So across the board, left guard was a competition. Liam Eichenberg, who was a 2021 second-round pick that the Dolphins traded up for, and he was a left tackle at Notre Dame, and then he's had to move around, and then now they're trying him at left guard. He was starting to play some of his best ball at that position last year around Halloween mid-season point when he got injured, and then he had to miss some significant time there. Connor Williams is still just in his second year as a center, and he's been good at center, but still every now and then some snapping issues come up. So that's something to watch there. Robert Hunt at right guard is probably the most consistently reliable when you also include health, because when Teron Armstead is playing, he's obviously the best one on the line. And then Austin Jackson at right tackle, he's also a big question mark there because he has been very up and down his first 3 seasons. And the last of those 3, last season, he only played 2 games. He got injured with that ankle, re-injured it. So he missed 15 games and went on IR for each of the 2 games that he did play. So now he feels completely fine from that ankle, but still has a lot of questions to answer on the final year of his rookie deal. He was a first-round pick in 2020 as well, along with Tua.
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely think the Dolphins Jets kind of have similar issues as well on the offensive line. I want to ask you actually about the defense, and I'll start with Christian Wilkins. Is this situation is it going to be a distraction to this team going forward, especially for the whole year?
You could say that, but really, Christian Wilkins, he really means it when he's always saying that he is just focused on the team. When he shifts his focus to just being the best player he can be, then he really does that. He really sets his head down and does it. So, yeah, I buy it. When for a lot of players, maybe I wouldn't. When they say, yeah, although I wanted my contract situation resolved, right now I'm just focused on the team. A lot of players, you probably think, yeah, that's just what you're saying in front of the cameras. But really, when Wilkins puts his head down and decides to just focus on the team, his play, then he does that. He has said before that he remains motivated regardless of the contract situation playing out or not. And in fact, now he probably has a little extra chip on his shoulder because it is yet to be resolved. So now he's got to go out and prove that not only is he the super productive run stopper that has been the key in this Dolphins defense, being number 4 in run defense last year and very strong against the run game all the years he's been here since he was a first-round pick in 2019. But that he now has to add to the pass rush because that's ultimately what pays in this league. So I think he's looking around at a lot of the defensive tackles around the league, whether it's a Quentin Williams, whether it's a Javon Hargrave, whether it's a Dexter Lawrence, who he was a teammates with at Clemson, and seeing the contracts they're getting. And he's saying, why am I not valued at the same rate now? He hasn't collected as many sacks as those guys, so in that interior pass rush is part of it. But I think he's looking to add that to his game. I think he showed that one year he was participating in team portions of practice in training camp. So now he's got to have that translate onto the field during the season, and then he'll be rewarded if so.
Yeah, I just think he's a different player than, let's say, Quentin Williams. They're asked to do a lot of different things. With Quentin, it's more he's your traditional sack guy, and not necessarily the run stopper. I think Christian is. So yeah, definitely it's hard. That's why I thought the Dolphins should have paid him before Quentin came about, because now Quentin's the number 2 defensive tackle in football as far as money. And now if you're Christian, you're like, yeah, I'm trying to get that paper too. So you're kind of in that hard situation.
Yeah, it sets the market when you see what other guys are making. So some of that could have been resolved earlier, but now Wilkins is getting an idea of that market from looking around. And obviously the Dolphins, they're going to have a lot of other salary cap questions to answer in the coming years. So they have to be smart about the whole situation as well, because pretty soon you're going to have to pay Jalen Waddle. You're going to have to pay Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, Tua Tagovailoa. You're still on his rookie contract, and he's got his 5th-year option. But then after that, what are you going to do? That's a big reason why a lot of people feel Dolphins really have this 2-year window while you're still paying the quarterback a rookie contract to really go out and compete. Maybe similar to the Jets with Aaron Rodgers at the end of his career.
Yeah, I think so too. Just from what you've seen from Vic Fangio early on, just what's the effect he's had on this defense? Yeah,
well, a lot less blitz than we've seen from the Dolphins under the Brian Flores and Josh Boyer regimes. And Josh Boyer was Flores' defensive coordinator and then stayed 1 year, as the Dolphins wanted to maintain some consistency on that side while they transitioned from Flores to McDaniel. But it really didn't work out last year, and Boyer didn't have it running the same way he did when he had the backing of Flores. So Boyer and them, they would get a little blitz happy, and then at a certain point it would get predictable for opponents, and they knew how to expose it. They knew when it was coming, where it was coming from, and then could attack those areas vacated by the blitz. And Fangio is not as reliant as much. He said in his first press conference here, actually right behind where I am, so on that podium, he said he likes to dictate the terms of when he blitzes. When he decides he's doing it, and not when the offense forces you into it. So He'll be more selective in when he does it, and then that'll be more coverage, more zone coverages than we've seen in that press man to man. That could help Xavier Howard, who he's getting up there in age and has had his groin injuries, so maybe he runs a little bit less with some receivers and can keep his eye on the quarterback. Can help him get back to that ball hawk type of corner that we know can bring down those interceptions and let those edge rushers go to work. Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. So now, as opposed to the blitz, now you have more guys in coverage. Maybe more time for Phillips and Chubb to work on their specialty and just get to the quarterback. So a lot of guys that could benefit. And Fangio's also helped a lot of safeties. He's had about 7 Pro Bowl safeties in his last few stops. So now Javon Holland, he could be next in line as he goes into a big third season for himself.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the secondary, just the confidence that you have in them, because obviously X is coming off a very difficult year in 2022. But we say that like when he's on, he was one of the best corners in football, and now I think expecting you to have Jalen Ramsey kind of take some pressure off him. Obviously, that won't happen at least the first half of the season. So, can he return back to that level? Because he, like as you alluded to, he gets getting a little bit longer in the tooth as far as age as well.
Right. So that's going to be a key is for X to return to that level, and maybe that less of a stress on his legs could help him in that regard. He really wasn't himself last year, but I think a lot of it had to do with those groin injuries. Those things linger for players that are on the outside that have to run a lot and use those legs a lot in full speed sprints and showing the recovery speed, guarding some of the fastest athletes that are in the NFL. And then aside from that, then Jalen Ramsey's injury hurts a lot, but they have Kader Kohu on the other side, who was an undrafted rookie from 2022 and really emerged and was relied upon as another corner. So I'm expecting him to take another step. And then when they're in nickel packages, he'll move inside. And then I'm expecting Eli Apple, a veteran, who obviously everyone across the league knows him for the trash talk, and he's back here with Tyreek Hill, and they're united after that beef that they had with the Bengals and Chiefs, now on the same team. But I expect him to be that veteran on the boundary when they're nickel packages, like Kohu be in the slot. And then they got Cam Smith, the second-round pick out of South Carolina, who has impressed a lot at times in training camp. I mean, it seemed like every practice he was breaking up a pass, showing some recovery speed, either sticking right with a guy to break up a pass or recovering and then getting his long arms out there to the receiver when you thought it was going to be a catch that he gives up. But in that last preseason game, we saw him give up a touchdown over the top. So Vic Fangio kind of warned us a little bit that sometimes he's not in the best position. So that's kind of one of those rookie things that they got to correct and work out over time. So I think maybe as the season progresses, he'll get more and more ready to be able to provide another cornerback there. And they just traded for Kelvin Joseph, a guy who was highly drafted in 2021. They got rid of their own 2020 first-round pick, Noah Benogany, who really bust label has been all over him since he was drafted in that first round. And then now the Dolphins finally parted ways with him, traded him to the Cowboys. Kelvin Joseph can give him a guy that's maybe more so in the slot as well as a backup in that regard, and then also a special teamer, which Noah Benogany was not.
I got a couple more questions for you before I get you out of here. One, we spoke to Aaron Rodgers about this and just about teams. He said himself, like, he thinks some teams are jealous, like all the coverage that the Jets have received this offseason. You can't be a naive to the fact, not just you, but I'm sure everybody, that they've been the media darling of the entire offseason heading into the year. So I don't know if you've spoken to Dolphin players or anybody else about this, but just what is your thinking, inside the locker room? Because I'm sure, the Dolphins are the team to make the playoffs last year. Obviously, the Bills are the top dog, but yet everybody's just, infatuated with the Jets and obviously Aaron Rodgers and everything that's happening right now.
Yeah, to be honest, it hasn't come up much this training camp. I think probably a lot because the Dolphins don't see the Jets until very late in the season for the first time. Black Friday is that first matchup, so I know it'll be a big headline for both of us once we get down to that portion of the season, the meeting with the Jets, and obviously then we revisit all the Mike McDaniel and Robert Saleh stuff because they go back to San Francisco, and then and then Tyreek Hill had almost gone there and all that, and then of course now Aaron Rodgers just brings another flavor to this. Who, by the way, beat the Dolphins just last Christmas when he was still a member of the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you're willing to give a prediction. I know for me, like I had send my prediction, then I have the Jets and the Dolphins actually tied for the AFC East at 11-6 this year. So I don't know if you're willing to give your prediction or how what is your assessment on how you think the season may go for the Dolphins?
Yeah, I would have them. All right, so actually, our predictions just went up on our Sun Sentinel website, and then I predicted 11-6 as the record. So a solid wild card team because I think still maybe I maybe I need to move off of this. Maybe it is time, and maybe it's either the Jets or the Dolphins that take the AFC East. But I'm still predicting the Bills win the AFC East. Yeah, I see you shaking your head. Yeah. Maybe I got to jump on the bandwagon. Maybe it's because I've just watched the last 3 years and still feel they'll have it together. That's not to say that maybe something different happens in the postseason too, because we did just see the Dolphins almost beat the Bills in a playoff game with the third-string quarterback Skylar Thompson in a 7-2 matchup, and that was almost the first 7 seed to move on. They had a lead late in the second half in that game, so really with everything against the Dolphins, they almost beat them in Buffalo in the cold, which Miami historically does not do well in, and almost pull off a big playoff upset. But so for now, I still believe the Bills will win the division, and in my Super Bowl prediction, I still said the Chiefs being back in there and topping the Eagles in a rematch of last year.
Oh, come on, man! Like you got the same matchup.
I think I'm picking too much chalk from last year.
Yeah, you really are.
Yeah.
I had the 49ers and the Bengals in the Super Bowl. Like I think Cincinnati's gonna do it. I think Cincinnati's going to win the title, which, I think, you could go with the Chiefs. I think it's easy to. But the thing about Buffalo for me, and then I just think it's a lot of smoke around that fire right now. And, you still have Josh Allen. You still have Stephon Diggs there. But, losing Tremaine Edmonds I thought was big. And I just don't know. I think the gap is closed between them and everybody else in the division.
It has closed, that's for sure. And then all these teams, they're going to have to play each other. So even when we pick these records that have a lot of wins and maybe not that many losses, and all these teams got to see each other twice a year, so it's going to be tough. And the schedule is tough beyond that too, facing the NFC East and the AFC West. So the AFC East really has it out for itself this season.
All right, that's it. That's all I have for you. But David, man, I want to thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll definitely have you on again. And of course, I'll see you up here on Black Friday. Like we'll have to figure out something to do, hang around and chill a little bit outside of the game. That is.
Oh yeah, I got to see you in North Jersey.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like you always stay in the city, so we got to get you out of North Jersey.
Yeah.
I thank you, David. I appreciate. Yeah. Like I say, it's another episode of Backpage Breakdown. My name is Antwan Staley. You can check me out, Antwan Staley on Twitter and all social media platforms too. Check out another episode next week too, Tuesday and Thursday. Also have an episode with Will Parkinson that we did on Tuesday if you want to check that out too as well. So yeah, thank y'all, and I hope y'all have a nice weekend too.